So I started this painting last week and I promised that I would video me doing the rest of the painting. So here are some stages that I have gone through since last time. So just now what I'm doing is I'm knocking back some of the background because I felt that the background was too close to the foreground. There wasn't any depth or space. So the way that I do that is I create a glaze that is a similar colour to the colour in the background. So I've gone for a bluey grey mix and I've mixed it with some gel medium, which makes the paint a little bit more transparent. And then I'm just using quite a thick and broad brush just to apply some of that glaze. So what happens is when I paint over the surface, you can still see the image underneath, but it's not as prominent, so it's pushing it back. It creates a little bit of depth on the canvas, and I do this quite often after I've spent maybe a couple of hours building up quite intense layers. It's quite good to push some of them back at some point just to create a little bit more depth. Now I've done some work in the background, I'm going to look at the foreground, because whenever you do something to the background, it then changes how the foreground looks. So I'm using my Posca pen and I'm just going in to pull out some detail in the flower arrangement, and hopefully that will bring some of the flowers forward and create a little bit more detail and focal point within the flowers just by using the fine line of the Posca pen. The Posca pen is also quite good for adding highlights, and it's also easier, in my opinion, to hold when you're trying to do small detail parts rather than holding a brush with white acrylic paint on it. I prefer to use a white Posca pen because, like paint, you can rub it out with your hand, or you can use a brush to dissolve the paint once you've applied it with the Posca pen, but I do prefer being able to have that linear advantage with it being a pen rather than the brush. I'm now going to work on the other areas of the canvas because it's important for me to keep moving around the canvas so that I don't overdo a section. So I like to keep moving around the canvas. I've decided now that I'm going to work on the empty space over in the left, and the empty space has got a lot of marks in it, but a lot of the marks feel like they're all on the same layer. So what I want to do is I want to create some depth between some of the marks, so pushing some of the marks to the back and bringing some of them forward. So there's different ways that I can do this. Sometimes what I like to do is use a different type of pen, so it gives a different line, or in this case I'm using a shiny Posca pen, and that way the light catches that in a different way than it would if it's just a normal Posca pen, so it almost gives a shimmer to the canvas. And I also like to use warm colours in the foreground and cool colours in the background. I'm now using stenciling. This is a stencil that I've just broken off the section that I actually liked, and I'm just using quite a dry brush and just sort of not randomly placing it, but placing it on the canvas just to add again another layer and to create some more depth. So I've chosen a stencil that is quite linear, which is in keeping with the marks I've already made with the Posca pen. And I've used a glaze with a blue-grey, so again the colours are similar to the colours that I've used. They'll stand out enough to be seen but not too much, and then I'm going to go back around these with my Posca pen just to pull some of them forward again to create more depth. I'm now going back in with some acrylic paint. This is just some gold acrylic paint that I've got, but rather than using a brush to apply this, I'm going to use my rag, which is the rag that I sometimes use to clean my brushes or wipe off excess paint. So I quite like to use a rag just to apply another texture to the surface, and I've got a little bit of gold paint here which is hopefully just going to lift some of those colours forward. Like changing the size of my brushes, I like to change the size of the pens that I work with so that my marks do create different lines. This is a really thin liner acrylic pen, which I'm just using to create some tiny parts of detail on different parts of the canvas. I don't want to do this too much because I don't want to take away the focal point from the vase, but this is just again helping to create some interesting sections to my painting. So the last thing that I'm going to use is oil pastels. Now, if you don't know this, you cannot put oil pastels on a canvas and then try to apply any form of acrylic paint over the top. It just won't mix. It's like oil and water don't mix, neither do acrylic paints with oil pastels underneath. However, you can use oil pastels on top of your acrylics, and I love using this technique. I tend to use it at the end of a painting when I'm just wanting to blend in some of those colours or create another texture that I'm unable to get with a paintbrush or a pen. So I've got some oil pastels that are very similar colours to the colours that I've already used with the pens and paint, and I'm just going in and adding a little bit of texture. I really like how you can place a light coloured oil pastel on top of a dark section of acrylic paint, and then you still are able to see the dark colours coming through, but you've got that nice lighter colour on top made by the creamy oil pastel. At the end of the painting, I then seal the canvas with a gloss spray because I like the surface that is created with a gloss spray. I use a gloss spray that is suitable for oil pastels, and that way it won't react to the oil pastels. So make sure that your varnish that you apply is suitable for oil pastels, and that seals it in. It stops the oil pastel from smudging, and it gives a really nice strong sort of glassy look. Yeah, please. It's funny, when I step back from the painting, this bit here is annoying me. It's kind of too blowy, so I'm just going to break that up just now. I could probably use a pen. I'm going to use a blue because blue is a cool colour and blues push things to the back. So I'm just going to add in some blues. Yeah, coffee please. Oh, just a normal. Yeah. Yeah, just instant normal. Instant normal. Right, and I think oh, that's too much. That's better already. I need to take my pen out, don't I? That blue's just helped to keep it in the background whilst, yeah, breaking it up a little bit more. There we go. That's better. Yep, I prefer that.